T.J Dillashaw, also known as Lieutenant Dan, was reported to have told the UFC that he was retiring from MMA. This may be because of Dillashaw's November 10th shoulder surgery that he decided to call it quits. The public's perception of his legacy is still disputed due to his use of recombinant human erythropoietin, or EPO. Would such an injury have made him opt for retirement? Watch this video fully for the details. First up, the ex-UFC champion T.J Dillashaw, suspended for 2 years for anti-doping violation. In 2019, T.J Dillashaw, the former UFC bantamweight champion, was suspended for 2 years by USADA for breaking the UFC's anti-doping policy. USADA CEO Travis T. Tygart was the one that announced the ban. According to Travis, everyone at USADA knew that winning expectations were genuine and enormous at all levels of all sports, to protect the rights, health, and safety of clean athletes, as well as to ensure that those who accede to their demands and choose to break the rules, as in this case, are held accountable in a real and meaningful way. Strong anti-doping measures are necessary. This, in a way, worked out as it should, since there are anti-doping guidelines with the intent to be fair, respect the rights of others, and make sure everyone is safe. The suspension for violating the anti-doping policy seems a fair decision by T. Tygart. Before his January 19th flyweight title match against Henry Cejudo, which Cejudo won by first-round knockout, Dillashaw tested positive for recombinant human erythropoietin, EPO. Jeff Nowitzki, the UFC vice president of athlete health and performance, stated that he is relatively aware of EPO from his research on elite cycling teams. The drug is quite potent, and it's not a chemical found in tainted supplements. It is solely injectable. You must be aware of what you're doing when it enters your system. On a scale of anti-doping severity, it's near the top. Dillashaw was also given a 1-year punishment by the New York State Athletic Commission, which he will serve during his USADA sentence, though this seems a bit harsh. The test reports confirm his drug use implies it was a conscious decision, and most likely by injection. Hence, he should be prepared to face the consequences. Also, everyone, including Dillashaw, is aware of the policy against doping. He could not compete in the octagon again until January 18, 2021. After the positive drug test, Dillashaw had to give up his bantamweight title. Given his age and time away from elite competition, it will take a lot of work for Dillashaw, 33, to become a top contender again whenever he returns to action. The announcement on that Tuesday radically affected his legacy. Also, on the details of T.J Dillashaw's retiring from active competition. According to reports, T.J Dillashaw informed the UFC that he was quitting mixed martial arts, as his November 10th shoulder surgery may have influenced Dillashaw's decision to retire due to his use of EPO. The public's assessment of his legacy remains ambiguous. The news that former UFC bantamweight champion and 2-time champion T.J Dillashaw would retire has shocked the mixed martial arts community, and curious fans are looking for answers. Dillashaw informed the UFC that he was quitting after going 1-1 in his last 2 fights, following his 2-year ban from 2019 to 2021. According to ESPN's Michael Wansover, MMA TV personality Ariel Helwani, after consulting with both Wansover and Dillashaw's managers, Tiki Gazan, offered further insights in a video broadcast to his Twitter account. Helwani explained that Dillashaw had shoulder surgery a month after his fight with Aljamain Sterling. After that, he went to see his surgeon, who warned him that it was going to be a long time and that there was a chance he would need a second surgery down the line, that it's a very acute injury, that it's the worst damage to a shoulder that particular surgeon has ever seen. Dillashaw expressed his desire to leave, saying he had enough to Tiki Gazan. Helwani said that Tiki and the UFC were both taken aback by it, but they recently let the organization know that he had decided to retire. This information was sent to the UFC within the last 2 weeks or so. Dillashaw may be going to rehab and striving to get back to 100%, so it's still being determined what will happen in the future. Helwani stated that the shoulder procedure was performed on November 10th last month, only a few weeks after his TKO defeat to Aljamain Sterling in the latter's title defense at UFC 280. Most fans started looking for answers when the Twitter account UFC Roster Watch indicated that Dillashaw had been dropped from the list, despite Wansover being the first to publish the news. Conor McGregor targeted Dillashaw, the UFC bantamweight champion at the time, by making the now famous snake in the grass remark to Uriah Faber at The Ultimate Fighter 22 about Dillashaw's association with Dwayne Ludwig. Dillashaw's rivalry with Cody Garbrandt, a former teammate on Team Alpha Male, would intensify, turning into a full-fledged feud that helped him rise to superstardom. However, Dillashaw's fan views have varied, since he was caught using EPO and had his title stripped in 2019, raising doubts about how long he had been taking the substance. This use of EPO also raised concerns about whether he was on EPO when he fought in major events, and whether he was a true champion. On July 24, 2021, he defeated Corey Sandhagen in a split decision to make up for his ban, and many wondered how much gas was still in his tank tank after Sandhagen pushed him to the edge. Dillashaw leaves the sport of MMA with 2 reigns as the UFC bantamweight champion, a record of 17 victories, 11 finishes, and 5 defeats, and the distinction of having 5 victories in fights for the bantamweight championship. TJ Dillashaw informs the UFC that he is retiring after his most recent shoulder surgery. TJ Dillashaw, the 2-time UFC bantamweight champion, has informed the organization that he is retiring from MMA. According to UFC officials who verified the information to MMA Fighting, the decision to retire Dillashaw has been communicated to the organization by his manager, Tiki Gazan. On Twitter, Michael Wansover broke the news first. Dillashaw decided to retire after having yet another major surgery to fix shoulder injuries caused by his most recent defeat to Aljamain Sterling at UFC 280, while serving a 2-year ban for using the recombinant human erythropoietin under the UFC's anti-doping policy and suffering from shoulder issues in recent years. Dillashaw underwent surgery on both arms. Shoulder problems have plagued Dillashaw for several years. In April 2019, he underwent surgery to repair a torn labrum and biceps and received extra treatment on his bicep tendon. Dillashaw underwent those operations while serving a 2-year suspension from the United States Anti-Doping Agency for a positive recombinant human erythropoietin test. After learning of an adverse result from USADA in a drug test, Dillashaw gave up the UFC bantamweight title in March 2019. In the main contest of a UFC on ESPN event in July 2021, he defeated Corey Sandhagen by a split decision. This fight marked his comeback to the octagon. Dillashaw stated that he underwent surgery to fix the injury to 3 knee ligaments shortly after the bout. Before facing Sterling, the 36-year-old had been out of action for 15 months. After UFC 280, current UFC fighter Cub Swanson stated that Dillashaw could not lift his arm during his fight's preparation due to a severe injury to his shoulder. Camera footage from the main event shows Dillashaw's corner appearing to pop his shoulder back into place between the first and second rounds. During the post-fight news conference, UFC President Dana White said he had no knowledge Dillashaw's shoulder was torn up. White continued criticizing Dillashaw for failing to inform the promotion about his injury. However, Dillashaw was anticipated to be out of commission following the most recent operation for at least the next year, with a potential follow-up procedure. That, however, proved to be too far a bridge for Dillashaw to cross in order to return to action in a reasonable time frame, prompting him to notify the UFC of his intention to retire from MMA. Dillashaw departs as one of the greatest bantamweights in MMA history, having held 2 different UFC championship reigns if his retirement includes all combat sports. Dillashaw won the title in 2014 by stunning Renan Barreto, and he followed it up just over a year later with another strong performance against the Brazilian. He lost the championship in a razor-thin split decision to Dominic Cruz. Still, he quickly rebounded with 2 more victories before defeating his former colleague Cody Garbrandt to win the title. Dillashaw decided to go for a 2-division championship after defeating Garbrandt a second time, dropping to flyweight to contend for the 125-pound crown. He failed miserably, losing in just 32 seconds against Henry Cejudo after the revelation that Dillashaw had tested positive for EPO and was therefore subject to a 2-year suspension. He renounced his bantamweight belt. Eventually, he came back and defeated Corey Sandhagen before losing to Sterling. Dillashaw finishes his career with a 17-5 record. And with that, there you have it. TJ Dillashaw notified the UFC of his retirement following the latest shoulder injury. And we have now come to the end of the video. Feel free to share your opinion in the comment section below. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more updates. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.